Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Bareham Engines. I've cut the seats now, as you can see. Cut the valves and seats on the Cosworth head. Now, we've given it a quick reface. Only took one cut to clean actually. It's a really good condition head. Paul's cleaned it up. He's got to put the springs and valves, stem seals, etc. on it. But as you can see in here, he's actually cleaned this up, but someone's had a real nasty go at porting it and done a horrible job. I don't know what they ported it with. What do you reckon they ported this with, Paul?
A spoon, probably.
A spoon? Well, the weird thing is I've measured it right down in the base there, and the whole point of porting these Cosworth heads is to open them up, really, because obviously they're turbocharged, so it's just literally, the whole point is to just make them bigger, but they still measure standard 22mm, so don't quite understand the point in doing that. Just made a bit of a mess of it. But as you can see, he's tidied it up. So that should be all right now. Right, so in the video I did on Sunday, and I just showed you, Paul had popped a piston and rod down the hole here when the crank was in. It was protruding. How much was it protruding? About 5mm, 5.5mm. So we would have had to take about 0.5mm off that, which means that the piston was about 5mm proud, and I found out the reason for that. So the rods that are in are 5mm longer than an original rod, which is strange really, because I've been in touch with Mar Motorsport and they do a long rod short piston. They call it a WRC piston, which is a flat top, and you've got to machine your own bowl in there, but they are the only ones that we can find are 7.5mm longer. So what this rod is, I do not know, but that will definitely explain why. I think, was it Paul, the piston was about 2.5mm lower when we stripped it, wasn't it? Yeah, so when we stripped it, we took the head off and we found that piston was in it on TDC was about 2.5mm below the surface of the block, so that'll explain that. They've obviously used a piston meant for a 7.5mm longer rod, so I'm not quite sure about these rods. So what we're going to have to do is get a standard set of H-section rods from Mar Motorsport, standard length. They've got them in stock. They're not very expensive, but I'm just trying to get hold of the customer now. So until I do, I'm not going to order them, but that is pretty much all we're waiting for on this now. But yeah, if any of you can tell me what these rods are out of, the 5mm longer ones, and what the setup is, I very much appreciate it, because I don't really know about that. So as you can see today, guys, I've got the thermals on underneath the t-shirt, the jumper and the jeans, and now I've got the fleece. So nice and toasty today. Feel like I'm getting a little bit of a cold, so I had to wrap up. Right, just while we're out here, not quite so cold today, probably about 1 degree. Just a little update on the van. Almost coming up to 6 months use, 6 months ownership of the van. Absolutely over the moon with it. Love the van to death. Look at that idiot at the back there, prattling about. So yeah, lovely family vehicle, great work vehicle. So just moving on to the maintenance schedule of this van. Now Ford will probably tell you otherwise about this engine, as would a lot of manufacturers would say that everything's absolutely fine and never give any trouble. But this particular 2-litre diesel in this Transit is the wet belt version. So what that means is you've got a cam belt that runs in oil. Great idea, not. But basically the problem is, because of the long service schedules on them, so you've got, it's about every, I think it's 20,000 miles or every 2 years, something like that. We've heard of these vans, the belt going even in the first couple of years. So before they've even reached the first service schedule, the belt goes on them. So what tends to happen, I think, is people don't use them as they sort of are designed to, go up and down motorways and what have you all the time. They do stop starts. The injectors put fuel, I think they do like a regen. People don't know that they're doing a regen, turn it off midway through and it dumps a load of diesel into the oil. And what that diesel does is it sort of perishes the rubber belt in the oil, and the belt breaks and goes everywhere in the engine and wrecks it. So what we're going to be doing with this, we recommend to any of you guys that have got one of these or another wet belt engine. A friend of mine works at Peugeot and he said they got the same issues. At the very least, I would halve your service schedule. So if it's 2 years, just do it every year or 10,000 miles.
I'm going to be doing this every 6 months. It's just covered over 4,000 miles in nearly 6 months. So every 5,000 mile, every 6 months, I'm going to be doing an oil change in this because I do a lot of short journeys in it. I go from home to work. It's about 3 miles, not enough. So I emailed John Burnell at Tour Garages. I said, John, coming up to 6 months, just book me in. He's got me booked in for Thursday, and I'm going to be doing an oil and filter change on this thing just to save the cambo. But yeah, just thought you ought to know that, guys. Plenty of transits out there, and we've heard of plenty of people that have had engine issues. So yeah, just bear that in mind.
So we've started work on this V8 now. John's ordered most of the bits, I do believe. The guy just wants a standard build, so we're going to use the original cam, etc. We've just got to bore it plus 20. The crank's all good, but as I said to you before, this engine, believe it or not, has only done about 30,000 miles. So Paul's gone through the heads yesterday. He's soda blasted those, done the valves and seats, as you can see, numbered them, lapped them all in, so they're all ready to go. As soon as we get gaskets and what have you, you can put the stem seals on, springs back on, and those heads are done. So I think next step, once this block is off the hone, we're going to get this one set up and we're going to rough hone that one out 20, and it should clean at that. There's a slight lip at the top, which is strange for only 30,000 miles, but that's what it is. It's probably been running rich or something in the past. But yeah, we'll get that one done. We'll get the block soda blasted and cleaned right up. Block faces refaced, and then that block is all ready to be assembled then. I think the crank is absolutely perfect. Obviously done no miles, so John's just going to polish that. We've just got to get in touch with the customer, see if he wants it all balanced, because obviously it's a V, so we're going to have to send that to CTM. If he does want it done, then we are going to have the clutch and the flywheel, because this is a manual, obviously, because it's in an MGB. But yeah, the rest of it, guys, is just clean up and Meccano on that. Right then, guys, you're probably wondering what I'm up to with the thumbnail and title today. Sorry about the dollars rather than the pound notes before you comment. It's because this subject really is to do with a guy from America. So, story is, just before I went on holiday, we had a phone call, very strange phone call. I'll say strange, it wasn't that strange, but it was just sort of out of the blue, really. Guy rang me up from America, and I should have really, but I didn't even ask whereabouts in America he was. He said that he'd watched our channel, he'd just come across it and watched a couple of 2 or 3 videos. He didn't sound eccentric or anything like that, but definitely a very, very knowledgeable guy in this game. So we were chatting, and we ended up chatting for about an hour actually. He sort of started about his history in this game. He started in motorsport, really. He's a sort of cylinder head developer by the sounds of it. He specialises in cylinder heads. He's worked for a top NASCAR team. I'm not going to say the team or the family he worked with, because he did say during our conversation that he likes to keep himself. He doesn't mind people knowing about what's going on, but he wants to remain anonymous. So I respect that. I'm not going to say sort of who he is or whatever. But yeah, he started out in NASCAR, and he was one of the top guys for cylinder heads and engine building. And by the sounds of it, got plenty of money. Now he obviously enjoys what he does. We ended up talking about all the problems that we have in here, and his sort of recommendations and his experience with things. We ended up talking about machines and machinery and what he's got, and what he's got the, we're talking about the Centronic. He's got a Centronic. He's got tons of tooling for the Centronic, the valve seat cutter. So probably halfway through our conversation, I started to think, is it a bit of a dodgy phone call? Is it a bit of a scam? But if it is, he's done his own work, because you can't possibly know what he knows by just sort of doing a bit of revision for a day or two. I mean, he knows his stuff, don't get me wrong. He knows way more stuff than I know. He's a very, very knowledgeable guy. And all the people that he was sort of talking about, and all the machines that he was talking about, they all exist. They are the real deal. But what he was actually saying was, he wants to help us with machinery. He said that, you know, he's got tons of machinery, so he's obviously got a big old place there. He wants to go small. He works on his own, so he's obviously just accumulated this stuff over time. As I say, he isn't short of a few quid at all, by the sounds of it. He said he wants to sort of donate machinery and sort of watch our channel grow, really, because of the type of channel we are and the type of people we are. We're honest. You know, he said that, you know, our machinery is from the dark ages, really, but we make use of it. We do what we do with the stuff that we got, and he appreciates that. He said he's helped a guy in Australia and sent some stuff over there. He also did state that he'd got 2 or 3 engines still in crates. They were a Cosworth engine, a bit like a BDG, I suppose, really. But he got 2 or 3 of those back from the 70s. He said, oh, I'll send those, you can have those. I mean, what are they? They're going to be 30 grand a piece. So, yeah, really, really strange if you think about it, guys. I don't know whether he's the real deal. I don't know whether any of you guys have heard of anything like this before, but I thought, you know what, I've got to do a video on this and tell everyone about it, because potentially, just from the machines he was talking about and these engines, what I think they were worth, the amount in the thumbnail there, it's got to add up to about that. So he said he doesn't want any. I said, you know, what do you want for it all? He said, I don't want no money. All you're going to have to pay is the sort of duty getting it in. But I don't know. Are we going to hear from him again, guys? Is he, with all due respect, he could be completely crackers, I don't know. But if he is crackers, or if it is a scam, the guy knows his stuff, don't get me wrong. He gave me 2 or 3 tips, actually, in the workshop, which I will put in another video. And I have tried them, you know, just little problems that we've had with stuff. And it actually works. What he suggested works. So he knows his stuff. Real weird one, guys. Please put down in the comments what you think about this, whether you think we're getting scammed, or it could be a potential scam, or we might not hear from him again. But he left me his phone number, so I don't know. What do you think, guys? Bit of a strange one, but potentially we could be sent nearly £250,000 worth of stuff. So let me know. So got one of the first V8 Rover head set up and being refaced, and as you can see, we've got a jig for this one. So because the head face is not parallel to the bottom, we could set it up using the parallels and going off the bolt holes, but it's going to be a right old rigmarole, to be honest. We'd have to use that with a height gauge. We showed you that before, and if we have to do it, we have to do it. But we've made a jig up for these V8s, because at one point we were doing quite a lot of these. So all they do is they bolt in, these jigs bolt into the rocker cover bolts, and just sit flat on the bed. So this is the first cut. It looks like it's cut. Obviously, there's been no issues with head gaskets on this this particular engine. Hasn't done many miles, so hopefully one cut will be enough on each head. The thing is with these Vs, because they've got an inlet manifold that sits in the middle of the V, if you have to take off more than about 10 thou off the cylinder heads, you then have to start thinking about taking some off the manifold, or the manifold faces on the head, because obviously the further down the heads sit when they've been faced, the more those inlet ports are going to be moved down the channel, so which means that the inlet manifold is going to be sort of out of sync with it. So that's the only thing. As I say, we found that up to 10 thou you're all right, but any more than that you have to start sort of thinking about taking some off the faces of the inlet manifold. One 5 thou cut on, well, wasn't even 5 thou, it was about 3 thou really. But that has cleaned nicely, so hopefully if the other one has cleaned okay at that, then we're going to be all right with the inlet manifold. Right guys, a couple of videos ago when we were talking about reviewing channels and what have you, I noticed down in the comments a lot of you did recommend a channel called Jim's Automotive Machine Shop. So I went over and I had a look at that channel. I sort of, so far I've watched 2 or 3 videos. Really, really interesting. Those guys there, lovely blokes, a lot more like us really. Work slightly different, obviously everyone does, but no, I thank you for that. Really interesting guys, and I will be definitely doing review on 2 or 3 of their videos. The first one I watched was about a year ago that they put that one on, but it was about their cleaning area and the machines they got for cleaning when engines come in, which was really interesting. So, just from watching that video, as I say, I will be doing a review on those boys, but just from watching that video, I noticed they got a couple of washing machines a bit like this. And I said to you guys how much that machine there cost to run when we were using it daily. But having a think about it, the way they use theirs is they turn it on when they need it. So if they've got a really grimy engine, rather than sort of pressure wash it outside and that, which obviously long term can't do, have to discard of the grease and what have you, the detergent safely, they just turn it on whenever they get a real grimy, horrible engine. So we've just been having a think, and I think what we were going to do is we're going to keep that washing machine because it is a really good washing machine. It's quite expensive in its day. We've just renewed the motor and what have you for the pump. Spent about £1,000 on it, and we haven't even wired it in yet. So we're going to get the electrician in. We're going to put that back to where it was, because obviously we've got the vent and that up there that leads to outside. So we're going to keep that where it is. We're going to move this little lot here, the decoking bench and the degreasing tank. We're going to move that probably over there by the door, and we're going to put the vapor blaster right there. Leading on to the vapor blaster, guys, I've just literally got the invoice and paid that, and that is going to be on its way just after Christmas, hopefully. So that's the update on that. So the vapor blaster's come in, we're going to stick that there, but I think that we are going to keep that washing machine, and we're going to put a good detergent in it and use it for cleaning an engine once it's stripped. We can just literally turn it on in the morning, wash an engine in there all sort of afternoon. We only have to turn it on for the day then, because obviously now we haven't got the volume of cylinder heads in, so things don't need to be washed constantly all day every day. So I think that's what we're going to do. Let me know down in the comments what you think about that, but to me makes sense really, because long term, if we get rid of that, we're only going to have to find another machine that pretty much does the same as that. Also, I did notice what they had, which I am going to be looking for, is an oven. They've got a big sort of industrial oven, which they put the blocks, heads and all that in there, the cast iron stuff, and it bakes all the grime and the grease and the crap down to like a powder really. So I think I'm going to be looking for one of those. If any of you boys out there know of anything like that, where we can get it, please comment down below and let me know where we can get that. Well, thanks ever so much for watching, guys. Until Friday's video, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we will see you then. Cheers.